Welcome to Inside the Burrow, everybody. My name is Jake Kelly, joined by Kevin and JJ as always. Rough week last week for the FAU football team, but we have this week our first ranked matchup of the year, taking on Tulane as well as the basketball team, now 2-0 and taking on Bryant on Saturday. So some exciting matchups for this week for both programs, and some exciting gentlemen that I am here alongside. JJ, how you doing today, sir?
Doing spectacular. Last night was electric. It was awesome. I had so much fun. First home game as a top 10 team. First home game of the season. We're 2-0. Let's go.
And Kevin, how you doing, sir?
I'd like to say that it's all sunshine and roses, but there's still that whole looming thing about there's still two football games left, and those still have to be played. And
Yeah.
at this point, it kind of feels like you're playing for pride because there ain't been much else going on, and I get it, like rebuilding year, but hey, man, hasn't been great.
Yeah, it hasn't been great, but it is an opportunity to change at least part of the narrative of the season. If we are able to defeat Tulane, which, like I just said, the ranked team on our schedule, they're 24th in the last rankings, and our team that, even though they're top of the conference, they are beatable on the basis of their last few games. We've seen some struggles from them. They just barely beat ECU, the team we lost to last week, and then last week just barely beat Tulsa. So, Kevin, what you've seen from this Tulane team, we've seen them struggle in the last few weeks. What are the areas you feel like FAU could attack this team?
I I wish I could sit here and be confident that FAU can attack any of this, but again, I think it's more just general apathy in the current FAU team of their offense is sort of one dimensional. Their defense has been good. Like to their credit, their defense has played well down the stretch. And outside of that UAB game, which we won't talk about for very obvious reasons, it's just been inconsistent. I will say Tulane's offense is probably going to click like it has for most of these games. Like Michael Pratt, when he's healthy, has been playing really well. He's going to be an NFL quarterback next year. Makai Hughes, their running back, is really dang good. They've got some receiving targets. I don't know if they really have a true number one like they did last year with Watts, but this is still a good offense, and that defense is playing well. That secondary is really good, and Slade Nagel, their defensive coordinator, actually I think he's the offensive coordinator, but their defensive coordinator is one of the best in the country, and that defense is going to be pretty good. Look, this offense has got to magically find something to figure itself out here because you can't put up 13 points or something and beat Tulane this week.
Yeah, especially a team like Tulane that can score points. They've scored above 30 points more often than they haven't this year in games. And a lot of that is due to their quarterback being the one of the best in the AAC. And JJ, could you tell us about him?
Yeah, Michael Pratt is just an awesome quarterback through the first 2 years. He's looked really, really good. And I think that he is the best quarterback in the American Athletic Conference. He shows that he's speedy with his legs. He'll be making his return back down to Boca where he played his high school ball. But his touchdown to interception ratio is just amazing. 16 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. His QBR is top 20 in college football with a 74.0 QBR. He has over 1,790 yards on the season. And, I mean, he's looked very, very good. His accuracy is also really good. He's 102 for 59, I believe, in all of accuracy. And then he does a great job with throwing touchdowns. He can break outside and scramble around, get outside the pocket and throw the ball to his playmakers and make touchdowns, such as Trevor Evans or Chris Barzell. So he's a great quarterback.
Yeah, he's a tested quarterback. He helped them win the AAC last year and helped them win the Cotton Bowl against USC. Put up 234 yards and 2 touchdowns. And while maybe me, Kevin, and JJ could each throw 300 against USC's defense, he's proved it on a big stage that he can deliver, and has thus delivered this season. Like JJ said, his touchdown interception ratio has been incredible this season. 16 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, and he is the second leading rusher on the team with 4 rushing touchdowns and 273 yards on the ground, 1,791 through the air, 68% completion percentage, 9.1 yards per completion. So he's a very well-rounded quarterback that we very much could see play on Sundays. I'm not sure if he's quite going to be a starter, but we've seen guys like Brock Purdy. Everyone loves to talk about Tom Brady, the 6th round. Some guys that are taken later in the draft, some guys that have some talent, but either played for a smaller school or weren't given an opportunity in Tom Brady's case for most of his time, and then go on to have the success that they did in
Jacob,
the NFL.
He will be a starter at some point. It's pretty damn telling when you're like the first invite to the Senior Bowl, and for anyone who doesn't know how the Senior Bowl process works, like they invite players that NFL teams want to see. They don't just go out there and just invite random seniors. Like they have intel from NFL teams of hey, we want to see this guy in this setting. Like, can you invite this guy? Invite this guy. It's very much like the NFL's determining who they invite. And so Michael Pratt was the first invite out of anyone, out of any quarterback, out of any player. And that's pretty dang telling about what they feel about him as a prospect. I don't know if it's a day one starter kind of thing, but I think that some team's going to take him to start at some point.
He definitely could, but when you especially look at this draft class this year, the amount of quarterbacks, even if you assume with Dion saying about Shedeur, if Shedeur ends up staying in college, you're looking at Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix, what's Michigan's quarterback's name? It slips me for this moment.
JJ McCarthy.
JJ McCarthy. Yeah, I think it's pretty easy, guys, for JJ to know. A Michigan fan also named JJ. But there's so much talented quarterbacks this year that had he gone in a draft class 2 years ago, where you're really struggling to find a first round quarterback, and Kenny Pickett hasn't really looked like a first round quarterback. If he had gone in that draft class, he very easily could have been the second or third guy off the board. But with the amount of talent this year, I could see him sliding down the draft board because of, but still a very, very unquestioned the talent that he does have. Playing this FAU team that, look, we know we have talent. We know that there are good players that can get it done, but Kevin, especially at the second half of the season, the offense and defense just can't have good games at the same time. What do you think has been FAU's biggest issue this season?
They just don't have anything for this offense right now besides LeJontay Wester get the ball and do something. And that works for putting up numbers and that works for scoring some points, but at some point there has to be some other dimension to the offense. And whether that's another wide receiver stepping up at Jaquan Burton, Tony Johnson, Devin Price, whatever, or if it's finding a run game. And Larry McCammon, I think, has battled some injuries this year. Kobe Lewis has battled injuries this year. The luck has not really been on their side, but they just don't have that second dimension of teams have to account for this as well. And when you look back to other years, where the offense was firing on all cylinders, it was because they could run the ball at a high level. They could throw the ball effectively. And right now it's hey, LeJontay's down there somewhere. That's good enough for now.
It's sometimes been good enough, sometimes hasn't been good enough, and we saw that last week with ECU. In JJ, we were there for that game together, watched it together. So, Kevin, you talk more about the season, but JJ, specifically last week against Eastern Carolina, what was the biggest issues you saw with this FAU team?
Definitely the offense. Daniel Richardson couldn't get anything going on the offense, really, besides maybe the last drive where he found 3 10-yard passes to LeJontay Wester. But the offense has to get going. Charlie Fry really has to do a better job with scheming up for this Tulane defense. Their defense has looked really good, only allowing 20 points per game, about 20 to 30 points per game. So the defense looked good last week. I mean, 15 tackles for a loss, an interception from Jerome Moore. So I think it's all about the offense this week. And if we can put points up on this Tulane defense, which is very realistic because Tulane isn't known for their powerhouse of a defense, then we'll be just fine in this ballgame.
Yeah, it's odd that I feel almost better going into this game than we did last week. With East Carolina, you're playing a team that's last in the conference, but has shown gradual improvement over the season. And it's, if you lose, it's worst case scenario. You just lost to last place in the conference. Whereas this week with Tulane, you're playing the top team in the conference, ranked team, but they have shown some weaknesses over the last few weeks, specifically on the defense. And if we can get hot, if LeJohntay Wester can have his 200-yard, 2 or 3 touchdown game, make an impact in the punt return game, but the defense can continue to get stops like we saw at some point last week. I'm not saying this is a game that FAU should by any means expect to win, but you walk into that game thinking, look, it's all or nothing. We win this game, we have an opportunity to secure a bowl game next week. We lose this game, season's done, and you walk from there, and there's probably some changes to be made with this roster for next season. But with that mentality that it's all on this, we're expected to lose by the general public. We're probably expected to lose by a lot of our own fan base against the best team in the conference. Go out there, leave it all on the line, and see what happens. With that being said, I don't feel great about it happening because we saw a significant regression in the offense last week. We saw Daniel Richardson, have one of his worst games as an Owl, 151 yards in an interception. Larry McCammon, 36 yards on the ground. Just everywhere you look on this offense, we saw season lows. Like Jaquan Burton, 39 yards, was a leading receiver. LeJohntay Wester did not have anywhere near of an impact as we've seen most of the season. So in a way, you can't get much worse than last week. But when you're coming against such a good team like Tulane, even though they've had their struggles in recent weeks, it certainly can't get worse.
I will say that, for me, the problem is that, they can't manufacture anything either. It's at some point, it's Larry McCammon's a very talented runner, and so was Kobe Lewis. Kobe Lewis was rushing for 1,000 yards at Central Michigan, but right now they can't even manufacture easy yards. They can't throw a screen pass out to the perimeter and get 5 or 6 yards and go, all right, you know what, we're back on track. So the real problem is that, you want to be able to have an offense where, and this is very basic level stuff, but if you're not going to be able to run the ball effectively, you got to find other ways to get easy yards, because it can't be 3rd down and 10, 3rd down and 8, 3rd down and 9, and it's going, man, I really hope, Daniel Richardson's got something in him to make this 8 or 9 yard pass, because once you get to 3rd down, every team's just going to be like, all right, where's LeJohntay Wester? Let's make sure he doesn't get the ball. And I would like to see them, and this is not clamoring for a quarterback change or anything, because I think Daniel Richardson has played well given the circumstances. But if you're not going to be able to manufacture yards, it's probably time to play Michael Johnson a little bit more, because Michael Johnson is another man in the run game who people have to account for. And we saw that against Charlotte, where he had the red zone touchdowns. And, we saw that against, I think, even UAB, where he had a touchdown. If the idea is that you're not going to be able to manufacture running yards through McCammon and Kobe Lewis, throw someone else out there who they have to account for.
I like that. I've said that, I think, on the last 2 podcasts, that I would like to see Michael Johnson get involved. Even though you're putting him out there, you're not expecting him to throw the ball much. He's thrown the ball a handful of times this year. That's not his strength. But that threat that you have to keep an eye on the quarterback, knowing you have the best weapon in the AAC outside wide that he can throw to, even if, let's say, 70% of the time he's going to run the ball. Sometimes maybe more, maybe less. He's running the ball, but on the off chance he's throwing the ball and he can get it to LeJohntay Wester, you have 2 guys that every single play can make a massive play. Again, like you just said, Kevin, I'm not asking for a quarterback change. I'd just like to see a guy who's been sitting on the sidelines, except for those goal-to-go situations, except for those 3rd and 2, 4 and 2 situations. I'd like to see him 1st and 10. I'd like to see him 2nd and 7. Opportunities that, it's not a clear rushing play where the whole playbook's open. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see as many weapons on the field as you possibly can. The offense has to get a much better start than we did last week. 4 3 and outs, 4 or 5 3 and outs to start the game. I think we had 14 yards at the end of the fourth drive after, again, another
I
three
can
and
get
out.
you the exact number of 3-and-outs. 1 second.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. They had 4 3-and-outs and then an interception on their first 5 drives of the game.
Yeah. So
and they were down 10-0 before they even got to like get on offense.
Those like first.
That's how you lose football games.
Yeah, those first like 10 to 15 plays, you know what you're running going into the game. You've talked about it all week. You've ran those specific plays, and obviously, situational football comes into play. But for the most part, you're running these plays. We expect them to go to these people, and we expect this result. And if you can't execute those plays, where the coaching staff is basically on the field playing it for the players because they know where they want the guys to be, they want their players to be. If you can't execute on that, then how are you supposed to execute when the playbook's open, now the actual game is unrolling in front of you?
The thing is that, like, if you're going to manufacture your first 15 plays, and like most teams, just to end it here, like most teams manufacture about 15, 20 plays. And that's like, hey man, these are the plays we're going to run. They're scripted. We practiced them all week. Like, these are the first 15 plays we're going to run. And they're used normally to, like, figure out tells in the defense, like, hey, how do they play this? How do they play that? The problem is that eventually, if you get punched in the mouth, and, like, FAU got punched in the mouth against DCU, the good football teams find a way to, once they get punched in the mouth, get back up and start punching. Like, Tulane, to their credit, yeah, man, they don't start every game off really well. They don't, some games they go down 7-10 points and it looks bad, but they always get up, they always punch, and they always end up getting that last punch. And like FAU hasn't delivered that last punch since probably Charlotte.
It's been a rough few weeks. It's been a rough few weeks for this Owls team. It's been a rough season. Definitely not what we expected. We certainly hoped to the very least be bowl eligible, and then if you can compete for the conference championship, great. Obviously, the conference championship game is not in play. We got eliminated from the conference championship game early in the game on Saturday. But bowl game, still possible, and that possibility starts with the game this week with Tulane. Have to win this week, have to win next week, and then you got yourself in a bowl game, which we haven't seen in a few years now. In multiple seasons now where we've seen the team flop in November, currently 0-2 in the month of November, and trying to avoid going to 0-3 in November, playing this very good football team. So, with that being said, JJ, you've been Mr. Optimism so much this season. I see it on your face that you're just itching to talk about basketball. So, while we're here, JJ, how's the game going to go on Saturday?
Look, noon kickoff. Can't wait until Saturday at noon. Gonna be my second favorite game I'm gonna go to on that day, obviously, but I think that FAU has a chance at winning this game. Tulane has won games very, very close. They beat Tulsa last week in a very, very close game. I think the score was 24-22. How about that? I think the score is 24-22 Tulane. They beat East Carolina by 3, 13-10. They beat Rice by 2, 30-8, 28. And they beat North Texas by 7. So those games are very, very close. But, however, Tulane is a very solid football team. There's a reason they're number 24 in the College Football Committee poll rankings. So they're going to be a really, really tough team to beat. However, I do think that the 9.5 point spread is too much for FAU. And FAU is going to cover the 9.5, but Tulane is going to pull it out 28-24. I like that prediction, 28-24. Give me Tulane.
Kevin, we know that you've been the voice of realism on this show for the basketball team. You often some people have come on here and said you're a hater to the basketball team. So we're going to ask you about the football team.
That's only JJ who calls me a hater.
I think it was me too, actually.
No,
I think
you're a hater. I just think you are like.
I think 100% of the other people on the show have called you a hater.
Your thinking is real when you
I am
Before
will
we
very
get
much
there,
admit-
before we get to the basketball, finish it off, and then we can yell about basketball all we want because obviously we're a lot happier about that. Kevin, voice of realism. How's the football game going to go?
I don't think I'm so much like the voice of realism, so much as like a
Negative
voice of
Nancy?
reason. Rather,
Oh.
I can't really talk. I'm like, yeah, I'm just more of like a negative Nancy. I'm more of just a pessimist, and like maybe that's like growing up a Dolphins fan.
I was just
growing
about
up,
to say, being a South Florida sports fan outside of the Heat in general, it's easy to do that.
yeah, like I think I'm just like a South Florida sports fan, and it's just like well, nothing ever works for me, except for like the Heat. But like I I just am sort of negative about sports teams until they prove something. And right now, well, hey guys, FAU really hasn't proven much, and I think there's a chance FAU wins this game. Uh, JJ, I'm talking about FAU football. Uh, like I think that like there is a chance FAU wins this game, and I will say that like you know what, like if they win this game, I don't think I'd be totally shocked. But like as of right now, I'm not buying it. Like you need to show me something. Show me you can win a game like this before I start talking about you winning games like this. I think FAU loses this game by 2 scores, and I think it's probably like a 13-point loss.
What'd you say the final
and
score was?
I think that
Uh,
I mean I
if sorry, go ahead, JJ, and I'll give the score after.
oh sorry give your score and then I'll
If I have to put like a number on it, give me like 34-21. Like I think the offense is gonna figure something out because well they kind of got to. Like this is now like you're no longer just playing for pride. You're playing for the fact that this offense hasn't scored many points recently.
Yes.
But I still think just Tulane's got too much talent, and there's a reason why they're probably going to a New Year's Six bowl again this year.
JJ, I'll give you the floor
Yeah,
and I'll give my prediction.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about. South Florida sports teams being bad. Like, are you guys born in the 1870s? They've been very
JJ,
good from my
no,
time.
What year were you born, JJ?
2010.
Okay, yeah, I don't
JJ.
want to hear it, bud. I don't want to hear it.
JJ, I
Don't
just want
wanna
to say
hear
that
it.
Jacob and I had to watch a football team that won 1 game in overtime.
Oh my gosh! And I remember where I was when I watched that game. I came home from the movies just in time for overtime to start to turn the TV on to watch Camarillo run into the end zone. Like,
Celebrated it like it was the Super Bowl.
oh my gosh! I have never been so happy at that point to watch the Dolphins win a game, and then watch us take Jake Long instead of taking Matt Ryan. JJ, you have no room because you grew up with the Miami Heat winning all their championships. You've grown, well, the Dolphins have still sucked, but you've seen the other teams start to develop and are now good. We saw them be so bad for the entire 2000s, except for the Heat for a very brief period of time.
I've been like very invested in sports since I was 7, so 2017. And the Dolphins
Oh my gosh.
haven't been that bad outside for one season, year 1 under Flores. They've pretty went mid every year, like 7 and 9, 8 and 8 before.
No, it's been every year
Yeah.
since 2000, since 2001.
Yeah,
but,
JJ.
but the
JJ.
Panthers have made it to the Stanley Cup. They won the
Oh,
President's
JJ.
Trophy. The Heat are great.
JJ, look, man, I've watched the Panthers when they were competing for the first overall pick in the NHL draft, not competing for the first seed in the NHL playoffs.
Yeah, dude.
You have very much had it lucky in terms of like the Heat and Panthers, like just sort of missing the days when it was bad.
Yeah. To
I mean,
wrap out,
not the Heat so much because when I started watching, they were still like really good. But like the Panthers and the Dolphins, they were not very good.
no, you've been blessed recently, JJ, and we all been blessed with South Florida sports. We have not been blessed with the football team this year, but I am going to ride the ship until it absolutely burns and crashes. I'm going to be the last man standing. I'm going to take FAU in an upset. I'm going to say 24-21. Sue me. That's all I have to say. I don't have to give an explanation because I'm not going to. Basketball. That was fun last night, wasn't it, JJ? You were there. You were at the game. And that was about, considering Janelle Davis scored 1 point, that was about as perfect of a basketball game as FAU can play. The floor could be open to either of you guys from that. JJ, specifically, since you were there, like, how great was that to see that? And we saw the rust against Loyola Chicago, and then yesterday it just felt like that switch completely flipped, and FAU was hitting on all cylinders. Everybody was playing about as perfectly as we've seen in Owl's uniform.
Yeah, so I'll take you through what my experience was. So I get there, it's sold out, and we start hitting a bunch of baskets. Brandon Weatherspoon, Brian Greenlee start making threes. Brandon Lorient looks great. And I believe it was 22-5, and we call a timeout. And I look up at the scoreboard, and I didn't think it was 22-5, but it was 22-5. And I said to myself, we really are the best team in the country. This FAU basketball team is unbeatable. They are not going to lose a game. They're going to win every single game this season, still on the schedule. I thought we looked awesome last night with Elijah and Jonell not performing up to their standards. We shot amazing from the three-point line. Brandon Weatherspoon 4 for 4 from 3. Brian Greenlee 4 for 4 from 3. And Brendan Lorient, and Giancarlo Rosado, they were able to get inside. Giancarlo Rosado, we saw those Euro steps, nice spin around into the basket with the left. This FAU basketball team looks so good, and we're not losing a game the rest of this season.
I mean, if they continue to play like they played all last night, even against better opponents, I mean, look, I'm not saying we're going undefeated. I don't want to get giddy. I know Kevin's about to shoot us back down to earth here in a very quick second. But if every game, which is not realistic, but every game, if you play like that every single night, if I'm talking like your best player, your preseason All-American has 1 point. If Elijah Martin still coming back from his injury, I mean, how late into the second half was it that he got his first three to drop? You're talking about Vlad, who's led the team in scoring both games. We've now seen a rotation of bigs on the floor together with Vlad and Giancarlo. We were wondering how that would look. That looked effortless. The bench, just about everybody who's available got some sort of minutes. I was watching from work on my phone, so I didn't really get to fully analyze it. But again, that was about as great of a start as you could have. Kevin, I guess we know you're just waiting to put your little just get down there. So, is there anything that not concerning, but is there anything that you can play your part in be a little negative Nancy about?
I don't know if it's negative Nancy as much as like, hey man, they've answered every question from the offseason of is this team for real? Is this team going to be able to do this again? If you beat another football team by 43 points is I think what the final score was, or the final point differential, like that means something. And like Eastern Michigan is not going to be good this year. Like that, it's sort of been pretty well established. Like they're just not going to be great this year. But if you beat another Division I team by 43 points, you're a good basketball team. I don't think that like these games sort of define their season. I don't think that has ever been the case. You got to beat Arizona, you got to beat Illinois, you got to beat those teams in the tournament or who are going to be around the tournament. But like, you're not like through two games they have proven that they're just as deep as before, and the fact that Brennan Lorient is playing 13 minutes a game and putting up 15 points, like that answers the question of like, hey man, who's replacing Mike Forrest in the rotation? And I have been a big fan of Brennan Lorient since they signed him, but like they are proving that like right now this team is deep. This team can find ways to survive when John L doesn't play well or when Elijah doesn't play well. And that's the biggest thing, because you're going to have games in conference play and against good teams where just look, John L doesn't have a good game, or Elijah Martin just doesn't have a good game. That happens when you're a basketball player. But like you have to find ways to survive that so that when those things happen, you're not scrambling and looking for an answer from someone who just isn't an answer. I will say real quick, Vlad Golden, I've never seen an improvement this much from one player. He has looked like a completely different human being this year in terms of how he plays. He is so much more athletic than he has been in years past. Like this is very much proof of concept that there is growth from players outside of just Elijah Martin and John L. Davis, and Vlad Golden is playing really good right now.
No, he's playing incredible.
Yeah, and
one second, JJ. If you have any other program, really, where your number 1 and number 2 scorers from last year to start the season are your 6th and 7th leading scorers on the team, that's usually a glaring red flag that your team is going in the opposite direction. But as is the complete opposite with this team. You have 6 guys yesterday who got into double digits. Vlad and Brandon Weatherspoon are your 2 leading scorers. But nobody cares. They talked about it all broadcast long. I mean, if you're not an FAU fan, you might have got tired of how much they were just talking about, wow, they can move the ball. Wow, anybody can get a shot. But like, no, it's a real thing. anybody can get a shot, and everybody just wants that next guy to get the shot. They want that next guy to get the glory. There's such unselfishness. Like, yeah, we kind of beat it like a dead horse, but it's true. This is something you don't see in college basketball, especially with NIL and in all these opportunities now for kids where, so many of these guys could have gone on to another school and been the guy there and got a lot more glory and a lot more focus than being, in South Florida, in Boca Raton, in the community that we have here. You could have went somewhere else and got the glory there, be the one guy, and to retain everybody and to see literally everybody has gotten better. Except so far, I don't know, just your two best players from last year. And, Janelle Davis, 1 point yesterday, but affected the game so many other ways. Elijah Martin coming back from injury makes sense. There's just so much reasons to be happy about this team. JJ, go ahead with your point.
Yeah, and I wanted to add on to what Kevin said about Big Bad Vlad. Big Bad Vlad is the best center in the nation. You heard it first from Giancarlo Rosado in the press game room when they asked him about Vlad. He said Vlad is the best center in the nation, and I agree with him 100%. What Vlad has done, not just on the offense, on the defense, is very impressive. He had 8 blocks in that Loyola Chicago game, or 6 blocks in that Loyola Chicago game, and he had 2 blocks last night against Eastern Michigan. That defense is really, really good. And then 4 steals as well on the season is also really, really impressive from Vlad. Vlad Golden averaging 19 points, man. You cannot stop Big Bad Vlad.
You really can't. And he's, like you just said, Kevin, he's developed in terms of athleticism, but his soft touch with the left hand has gotten better. Like, it takes a lot for a big man who's, a guy who's like above 7 feet. It's very difficult to just have that soft touch and not just try to break the rim every time you grab the ball. But he is more than willing to just put that ball up in the air a little bit, give that little touch and get in the basket. Like you said, leading the team 19 points per game, 7.5 rebounds per game. Very efficient when he does shoot the ball, which you expect from your big man because they're right next to the basket. But 70% from the field, and then also 71% with free throws. Now, it's the beginning of the season, but Vlad is we've seen from him what we've seen from everybody on this team. Weatherspoon, I don't think missed a single shot yesterday. In the rotation, yeah. You don't worry about you see somebody walking to the table to check in. You don't worry about like, oh crap, is that like, you don't worry about anybody who's walking to the table. You trust every single one of them to do their job and do it well.
I agree with that. I mean, this team is so deep and so unselfish, and like, we haven't even played Jalen Gaffney at all. We don't have to use him. And we're looking insane. And just imagine when Jonell and Elijah get back, because people don't know this, but Jonell had a boot for 2 months of the summer. So he's recovering from injury. And same with Elijah. Elijah was questionable for last night's game. This team was really good. And Nick Boyd, too. Nick Boyd can play so much better, even though he's looked insane. Nick Boyd's 3-point ball is just magic. Like, he's so good at the 3, and he gets separation from the other players. He can drive inside, and the leader he is awesome. Brian Greenlee didn't miss a 3 all night. 4 for 4 from the field, 4 for 4 from 3. We shot 63% from the field last night as a team. Just so many good things to think about in basketball. And, man, it's just great to be an Owls fan. Man, I would not rather be a fan of any other basketball team than FAU because they won't lose a game all season.
And this Saturday, like you said, JJ, it is the preferred game that we're going to be watching. It's going to be going against Bryant, the second game. They're 1-2. They did just put up 140 points, but they also did just fire their head coach. So it's a interesting team that they can score, but they're going through a interesting transition, and obviously as a team you expect to defeat. But Kevin, can you tell us anything about this Bryant Ball Club?
Yeah, let's just be clear. They put up 140 points against what I'm fairly certain is like a D2 or D3 school. I'm not completely sure.
I was being nice. But they did put up 140 points.
It is, yeah, like, so this Bryant team does have some good players. I have always been a fan of Earl Timberlake, their guard, who was at Miami originally. is sort of a jack of all trades sort of player, and I think he leads the team in like rebounds or something through 3 games.
Yes,
but like
double digits.
then they have, I don't remember his first name. Gross.
Yeah, Sheriff.
Gross Bullock.
Sheriff,
He's a
Sheriff,
good
one of the
scorer. Sharif.
He averaged 18 points last season.
Yeah, he's a certified bucket. Like as some people would say, like they're going to be
Valid.
dangerous scoring the basketball. FAU should still win this game by like 20 plus points. Like it should not even be close. Okay, let's.
How much did you say,
let's
JJ?
break JJ.
You say
They didn't even.
50 points.
Okay,
They
so I thought
didn't
I
even
heard.
beat Eastern Michigan by 50 points.
Kevin, you're a hater.
Kevin, Eastern Michigan, like they okay. So it was 100 to like 52, right? We could have scored more, and then we fouled. The guy made the three. What's his name? A cuff, Tyson a cuff. He made the three, and we fouled. So that's a 4-point play right there. So, I mean, they scored in garbage time too.
I will just
So did
say
we, though.
that like I will
We
just
would have
say.
won.
I will just say that this Bryant team is better than Eastern Michigan, and like JJ, you can't deny that they are better than Eastern Michigan. So like they kept it close against Rutgers, and I think they were leading at some point, and then Rutgers had to like come back and like decide to actually play basketball. They lost to Manhattan. Like this is not a good Bryant team so much, and they are obviously going through the transition with Grosso, their old head coach. I think they officially called it resigning.
Yeah.
It was not a resigning so much as like, hey man, you got involved in a court case. We don't want that. But like, look, this is a transition year for them. They're Bryant, like FAU's going to win this game handedly, but like I think Bryant is at least going to put up more points than Eastern Michigan did, which is like a pretty low bar. They put up 57 points in a
I think that's
basketball
valid
game.
when you're looking at a team that has 4 dudes this season that are in double-digit scoring, and 2 after that are 9.3 and 9. So this is a team that can score. I mean, obviously you have 140 points in one game, albeit against not the best competition. They can score. We can score. It should be exciting for a little bit. Like, you know, I don't expect us to come out of the gates with a 20-5 run, but eventually you do expect FAU to pull away. JJ, is your official prediction that FAU is going to win by 50? And if so, what's the score going to be?
more than 50.
Yeah, FAU is going to stomp, smack.
Ooh, smack 2.
Butler. Jono Davis is going to have the game
Butler
of his
or
life.
Bryant?
35 points in this game. The best player in the country.
You good there, JJ?
Sorry about that. I lost it there. A good shot for a second. But
Literally.
FAU is going to win this game in actually a closer game that some might actually think. They're going to win this game 103 to 68. Pretty close for FAU standards.
So not above 50.
No, I'll say 35 points.
Okay.
FAU wins.
Kevin.
Again, 20 though.
Kevin, how's it going to go?
Again, FAU wins this game easily. I don't think it's even particularly close. I'm sure it's like 2-0 at one point. So it's like it'll be close at one point in the game. Well, JJ, it has. JJ,
2
it has
to
to
nothing?
be 2-0 or 3-0.
Oh,
It has to be.
It could be 1.
I guess it could also be 4-0, but
Could be.
at some point it's going to be probably a one-score game because some teams got to score first.
We could get an 1-3 and a technical foul. It could be 5.
It could, wouldn't that be 6? I don't know how math works, but
I don't know. I forget college specifics.
outside of like these very hypothetical situations that are almost certainly not happening, but like this game's going to be an easy win for FAU. Again, I think Bryant probably scores more than Eastern Michigan did, and I think that like I don't think FAU crosses 100 again. Not that like not crossing 100 is like some bad thing to like frown upon. Give me 91. No, scratch that. 88 to 60. So I guess that's like 28. I don't know.
Something like that.
Actually don't think my prediction is that right. I agree with Kevin. I don't think we're going to put up 100. It's 6 p.m. on a Saturday. I'm going to say 93 to 67. But still a butt lumping.
I'm not sure why starting at 6 instead of 7 makes a difference, but
The most important factor of this entire game is not that Bryant can put up points.
It's
that
the
game starts
6
an hour
o'clock
earlier.
game time starter. I'm not gonna go with 100 points either. I'm not gonna go there. You played just about as perfect basketball as you can imagine yesterday. At the time of recording yesterday, FAU played. I don't think, pull back the reins a little bit. I still expect us to well handle this game, but you don't expect Weatherspoon to not miss a single shot. You don't expect Vlad Golden back-to-back games leading the team in score, which, who knows, maybe that's something that actually ends up being a thing. But pull back the reins a little bit. Although Elijah and Janelle getting more involved in this offense, slowly be more introduced is certainly going to be a good thing. I'm going to go with, I think somebody else said 88. I'm going to say 89. I'm going to go with 89 to 62.
Price is writing my prediction. Price is writing my prediction. That's incredible.
I will be more right on the basis of that one singular point. Let us know your predictions down below. But before we go, something I forgot to do earlier, a certain member of this panel got to talk to Coach Dusty May yesterday.
Coach Brian Greenlee shot 4 for 4 from 3. What are your thoughts on his performance tonight?
I thought BJ offensively was incredible. He struggled shooting the ball at Loyola, and he had great looks. He probably had better looks than he had tonight. Some nights the ball doesn't go in. It can impact your defense. It can impact the other things you bring to the table. So very proud of BJ. He typically hasn't shot the ball well in any of his seasons. He's progressively got better throughout the year. So it's nice to see him bang in a couple, and that will help his confidence going forward.
So JJ, what was that experience like being in the press conference, talking with Coach?
Yeah, it's great. It's great to get Coach's thoughts after the game. It's really cool, and I just love it. I love interacting with the coaches, with the players, talking with them. And this is my life. This is what I love. I love FAU basketball, and to get the opportunity to have a conversation or talk with one of the people who has made my life so much better in Dusty May. That may sound a little bit corny, but I mean, he's played a huge part in my life, and to get the opportunity to speak with him is I can't describe that in words. I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah, Dusty, really cool dude. All the guys on the team. Like, I was very fortunate. I got to go up to New York. I got to go to Houston. Got to interact with a bunch of the dudes, especially after that Kansas State game. When they were spilling out of the locker room. Just some of the nicest guys. Like one of the coolest groups of a basketball team. Like, so easy to root for. Everybody's just so likable and still down to earth despite the success that they saw last season. So really cool that you got to do that, JJ. And hopefully we'll see you guys for both games. We're going to be going to both games, so we'll be live covering the football game against Tulane at noon. Take a little bit of a break, maybe get some food, and then pile on into the basketball stadium and watch FAU take on Bryant. Both those games, we'll be doing our live game cast as we always do over here on the FAU Owl's Nest YouTube channel. So look out for that. You can set a notification for when we go live. Those two have already been put up on the channel, so look out for that. But that is all for us today. Went a little bit longer than usual. Again, let us know your score predictions for both games down in the comments below. Let us know about what you think about the football team and the basketball team while you're down there. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Go Owls.